Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Alexander. This is the second video about authentication and authorization in Angular. In previous video, we implemented user registration, hashed password, and users login. But the problems still exist. If users know URL to any component which can interact with database, they can use this URL to avoid login page and will be able to communicate with database. To resolve this problem, we will create JSON Web Token, JWT, Interceptor, and Refresh Token. Start our client-side and server-side applications. After login, we have access to the resources on the server side. Copy current URL to a different browser to simulate user activity on any other computer. We see that user can interact with database without authentication process. To resolve this problem, we will use JSON Web Token, JWT Interceptor, and Refresh Token. JWT Access Token is the entity containing encrypted information which is used to verify token on the server side. JWT authentication flow consists of login. You enter your username and password on the website. If the details are correct, the server generates W token and sends it back to you. Store and send. Your browser then stores this token, often in place called local storage. Every time you visit on the page on the site or request a protected resource, your browser, by using Interceptor, sends the JWT along in the headers of the HTTP request. Verify and allow. The server gets this request and the JWT with it. It checks the JWT's signature to make sure it's legit and hasn't been messed with. If everything checks out, the server provides the resources you ask it for. Only after successful validation JWT token from HTTP request on the server side, user receives access to the resources. It is important to highlight that the access token is a barrier token. Those who hold the token can use it. The access token then acts as a credential artifact to access protected resources, rather than an identification artifact. Malicious users could theoretically compromise the system and steal access tokens, which in turn they could use to access protected resources by presenting those tokens directly to the server. As such, it is critical to have security strategies that minimize the risk of compromising access tokens. One mitigation method is to create access tokens that have a short lifespan. They are only valid for a short time defined in terms of hours or days. There are different ways that client application can get a new access token for the user. For example, when the access token expires, the client application could prompt the user to log in again to get a new access token. Alternatively, the authorization server could issue a refresh token to the client application that lets it replace an expired access token with a new one. In a website blog.gogroup.co, we have a schema with access token and refresh token. During login operation, user receives access token and refresh token. Interceptor appends token to every user HTTP request response. With valid access token, user gets access to the resources. When access token expires, user receives HTTP unauthorized response, code 401. Based on this error, Interceptor redirects user request to a method in authentication server where user can get a new access token and new refresh token as long as the current refresh token is valid and unexpired. So refresh token should have long lifespan, weeks or months. With the new access token, user can continue work with the resources. To understand JWT access token better, let's open website gwt.io. The JWT tokens are sometimes referred to as barrier tokens. since all the information about the user is contained within the token. JSON Web Token consists of three parts separated by a dot. Header. This part tells us what kind of token we are dealing with, which is JWT, and the algorithm used for creating the signature. Header. This part tells us what kind of token we are dealing with, which is JWT, and the algorithm used for creating the signature. Payload. There is where the user data is stored. It is also where you will find details about when the token was issued and when it will expire. Signature. It is generated using a secret key or a public key, depending on the chosen signing algorithm. Verifying the signature allows the recipient to validate that the token has not been tampered with and originated from a trusted source. To generate JSON Web Token, we have to add the NuGet package. Microsoft ASP.NET Core Authentication JWT Bearer. I have added file jwttoken.cs under Tokens folder. To generate token using this library, we have to create token object of JWT security token class. It accepts several parameters. Let's add token parameters required for creation and validation token to app.settings.ts file under JWT options property. Validate issuer validates that the issuer claim inside the access token matches the issuer authority that the API trusts. Verifies that the issuer of the token is what this API expects. Validate audience. Validate that the audience claim inside the access token matches the audience parameter, meaning that the token received is meant for this API. Validate lifetime checks the expiration date of the token. Validate issuer sign-in key validates the security key that signed the security token. Secret key represents any string which will be used to create a token signature. The string should be long enough, otherwise the token will not be generated. I will show it later. Add required parameters for JWT security token class object. Issuer and audience. Claims. I used JWT registered claims names. We can use many registered claim names like username, family name, birthday, website, and many others. But I use only one, user's email. Next parameter is not before claims parameter. Not before claim NBF is a timestamp that indicates the time before which the JWT must not be accepted for processing. The NBF claim is used to prevent JWT token abuse and to ensure that JWT is not used before it is valid. NBF is optional claim. We put null here. Expiration time for the token. We indicated 10 seconds from the current local time. Sign-in credentials. It is a token signature that we have created based on our secret key in JWT options and using security algorithm HMAC SHA-256. Inject configuration service from Microsoft.extensions.configuration package into controller to get data from app.settings.json file. Add token return DTO class and required methods to generate access and refresh tokens to the controller. Add code to generate tokens in login methods and add refresh token method. Refresh tokens should have longer lifetimes than access tokens, since they are being used when the access tokens are expired to renew them. In main approach system security cryptography, random number generator was used for creating random refresh token. Random number generator getBytes method fills an array of bytes with a Random number generator getBytes method fills an array of bytes with a cryptographically strong sequence of values. Convert the byte array to a base 64 string. Generate access and refresh tokens method returns access token, refresh token, expiration time for the access token, it is 10 seconds from the current time, and current time. Simultaneously, method updates user table with a new refresh token expiry time, which is 1 week from the current time, and created date. We created refresh token method to generate new access token and new refresh token. In refresh token method, a new tokens will be created only when current refresh token from HTTP request is equal to the refresh token saved in the database. And refresh token is not expired. To get the refresh token from the database, we have to have user's email that we saved in access token claim array. To get claims from the expired access token, we use the method getClaims principal from expired token. Here we receive claims principal object containing claims using validate token method of JWT security token handler class. The method accepts two input parameters, expired access token and token validation parameters object, and has one output parameter, security token. Validate token method returns claims principal object only if access token is valid, otherwise it throws exception. Therefore, in token validation parameter object, we exclude lifetime from validation to make access token valid. Security token we use for additional validation of security algorithm that has been used to create token's signature. Security algorithm has to be equal to HMAC SHA-256. HMAC SHA-256. GetClaims principal from expired token method returns claims principal object to a refresh token method, and from this object we receive user's email. From the SQL Server database, we receive the record for this email containing hashed refresh token and refresh token expiration time. If refresh token from SQL Server database is equal to the refresh token from HTTP request, and refresh token is not expired, a new access and refresh tokens are created using the method generate access and refresh tokens. Login method and refresh token method call generate access and refresh tokens method and return to client access token, refresh token, expiration time for the access token, current time, and message field for possible errors. Open our client application that we have created in the previous videos with only one difference: the service renamed from Products service to Auth service, Authentication service. On the client side, we can store tokens in the local storage or browser memory and add tokens to every HTTP request using Interceptor. Angular provides a powerful mechanism for intercepting HTTP requests through the interceptors. They allow developers to inspect and modify ongoing requests and incoming responses. Leveraging interceptors, Angular applications can seamlessly integrate JWT tokens into every ongoing HTTP request. Let's create interceptor under interceptors folder in the file jwt.interceptor.ts. HTTP Interceptor FN are middleware functions which HTTP client calls when a request is made. These functions have the opportunity to modify the ongoing request or any response that comes back, as well as block, redirect, or otherwise change the request or response semantics. The HTTP request is by default immutable. We cannot edit it. Therefore, we need to create a copy by cloning the request with rec-clone. Now, with this method, we can configure our HTTP headers with access and refresh tokens from the local storage repository. Return the clone rec request and let it continue its way to the server. Let's implement RefreshToken method in Authentication service. When JWT access token expires on the configured expiration date, Interceptor receives HTTP unauthorized response code 401. We can provide confirmation form to the user with identification to the user. Your session is expired. Do you want to continue? When user clicks Yes button, Interceptor feeds a new Boolean value to the new token request subject in the Authentication service. Every subject is an observable, and every new value is multicasted to the observers registered to listen to the subject. Authentication service subscribes to the new token request subject and executes RefreshToken method, which redirects HTTP request with expired access token and valid refresh token to the server-side method RefreshToken of the product controller class, where a new access token and refresh token are created and returned back to the client. If no errors happened in the request, we store new tokens in the local storage. Using these new tokens, user can continue work with the server-side resources. To prevent executing RefreshToken method by several requests simultaneously, we implemented is refreshing class member with Boolean value. The initial value is false, meaning that RefreshToken method can be executed. When the first request starts executing RefreshToken method, it assigns is refreshing to true. It prevents executing this method by other requests. When RefreshToken method finishes, is refreshing is assigned to false again. Now we need to register our interceptor. We can do it in app-config file. Import our interceptor. Import with interceptors function. And register interceptor under the providers array within provide HTTP client provider. This interceptors function expects an array. Within this array we can pass as many interceptors as we want. In our case we put only one interceptor, JWT interceptor. In order authorization mechanism work, on the server side we have to add the code to program.cs. But I noticed that our package Microsoft ASP.NET Core Authentication JWT barrier has not been installed. Repeat installation. We received installation errors for the version 9.0.0. In this case, let's install the latest stable version, which is 8.0.1. It has been installed successfully. Check. Everything okay. In a program.cs file we have to have app use authentication, app use authorization. We have to add builder services add authentication method. Where in add JWT barrier method we have to indicate what parameters in access token have to be verified. we created token validation parameters object and indicated the parameters for verification. Validate issuer, validate audience, validate lifetime, validate issuer sign-in key, expiration time. The values of the parameters validate issuer, validate audience received from the access token in HTTP request are verified with the values in appsettings.json file. Validate issuer sign-in key contains calculated signature based on the secret key from appsettings.json file and verified with the signature from access token. We also have to add attribute authorize to every method on the server side where we would like to implement authorization. Put this attribute to every public method of our API, excluding login, registration, and RefreshToken methods. Compile application and test. Check port on the server side. Update port on the client side. We can use the data from SQL Server only 10 seconds. After notification, your session is expired, do you want to continue? We can press yes. A new tokens will be created and we can continue work for another 10 seconds. If we will comment the code for a notification, a new tokens will be created every 10 seconds, but user will not be interrupted. If we remove authorize attribute, for example, from getProductList method on the server side, server will not validate access token for this method, and user can use this method without authorization. But for the methods with authorize attribute, ASP.NET Core Authentication and Authorization middleware will check if a user is authorized or not, and user will receive a notification when access token is expired. Let's check. When we use products list method, we don't receive any notification that access token is expired, because this method doesn't require authorization anymore. But other methods, getProduct, addProduct, deleteProduct, still require authorization. Let's check. We receive notification. Finally, let's check what happens when we use short-secret key string. Apply short string as a secret key. Start application. Try to log in. From the products controller on the server side, we received an error, unable to create keyed hash algorithm for algorithm HS256. The key size must be greater than 256 bits. Key has 232 bits. Let's restore original secret key string. Everything starts working. Also, let's check. Can user just use URL to any component which can interact with database to bypass authorization and be able to interact with the database? Copy current URL to a different browser, for example to a Firefox, to simulate user's activity on any other computer. We see that we cannot communicate with SQL Server database anymore. Every time when we send the requests to the database, we receive a notification. Your session is expired. Do you want to continue? And even when we press Yes button, the same notifications appears again. It is because we didn't use login operation to the server side from this browser, and therefore we cannot get tokens to finish authorization process to be able to communicate with the server side resources. It means that we have successfully implemented authentication and authorization processes in our project. That's it what I wanted to show you in this video. If you are enjoying this content and would like to see more and support my channel, please hit the subscribe button. Thank you for watching, have a good day, and bye.